Hey guys, this is John Hang, and in today's video I wanted to do a quick update on the house and more specifically the garage. I haven't really been putting out videos, and that's mostly because the house is unsurprisingly taking up a lot of my time, and most of that time has been going into this garage. So in today's video I wanted to go into what has changed in this garage so far. It's been a lot of things, and if you watched the last video, this space looks completely different from what it looked like in that video. And let me just start off by just going through what's changed. If you've noticed, all the walls are white now. That's because I spent the last weekend with Melissa, my girlfriend's dad, as well as Melissa. We all painted all the walls white, like a perfect semi-gloss white. And some of the windows could use some work. They also need replacing, but this place looks completely different, night and day different, just because of the paint. And you can see here, you know, like I mentioned before that we have this foundation lip, and that doesn't look that great, but some of this paint looks, I think it looks so good. And it's kind of crazy that we are able to do this ourselves. So let me just flip this around and give you more of a tour. I'm sorry for all this clutter. This project has taken up a lot of tools, or it's taken the use of a lot of tools. You can see here we have a miter saw, we have an entire table here, 2 bags of tools, multiple buckets, and so on. My coworker Jim was nice enough to drop off a bunch of plywood for me. If you guys have watched a previous video, you'll know that this garage will eventually become a gym one day, and this is the plywood to make my weightlifting platform, which will go right in that corner. And so that was very fortunate, and I'm really grateful for Jim for dropping those off for me. So let me turn over to this side. So we have our breaker panel. I don't know if I mentioned it in the last one, but there's more stuff in this than there was before. And if you'll notice, we have a 50 amp double pole breaker. And maybe if you don't know much about electricity, I'll just say it really quickly. It's actually for this, which is an electric vehicle charger. This one specifically is called a NEMA 1450. And I don't have an electric vehicle right now, but honestly, the parts to do this was $35. We just conveniently wired it in through here. And so now I can label this garage as like EV ready. And I think in 5 years from now, that'll add a lot of value to the house. Going back to this breaker box, we also added an additional breaker. I don't know if I mentioned this in the other video, is that all of the outlets on the ceiling are controlled by this one switch right here. And so if you want an electric garage opener, you wouldn't want it to be intermittently on or off. You would want it to always be on. So we needed to add this additional breaker that is always on. And so we wired it up into the ceiling, into the attic. And so now this outlet right here is always going to be on. And that brings me to the next thing. This is where we're putting the garage opener. So let me bring this around and explain what this thing in the ceiling is. And honestly though, it looks so good now that it's painted. For about 3 weeks, it was literally just a hole in the ceiling. But if you see my garage door, you'll notice that these rails are really low profile. They take up very little space, and that's because this ceiling is a lot lower than normal garages. If you look at the rails, they actually go up into the ceiling because that was the only way that whoever built this garage could attach these railings to the ceiling. So that issue caused a bunch of other issues down the road. We wanted to add an electric opener, and the only way to have that electric opener have clearance for this rail, this is the electric opener, the only way for there to be clearance is if we cut this channel right here. And so that's what we did. We cut a channel, and it goes all the way to the base of the garage door. We also cut out this entire part so that we could mount the garage door or garage opener there. We also had to wire in the sensors. So those wires, we had to wire in ourselves and put it through this wall, which proved to be pretty annoying because it was insulated. And then we also had to make our own custom mounting brackets that are screwed into this wood. That same thing follows on the other side, right here. So we had to wire this sensor in. This side was a little bit easier because there's no insulation or something. And then we also had to wire in this one, which will be the little remote that's on the door. All right, so next thing I wanted to mention is that we added this attic ladder. If you noticed in the previous video, there's an access panel right over there, but because we needed to put the garage opener there, we had to get rid of that access panel. And so because of that, we'd be losing a lot of valuable attic storage space. So we added this attic ladder also. We bought this for about $130 from Lowe's. And here it is being opened. And let me just bring you upstairs real quick. All right, so I'm walking up my attic and it's a little bit dark in here, but we added this switch as well as these lights, as well as insulation, as well as this plywood. And yeah, so the really weird thing about this garage is that, so these ceiling joists, I think they're normally supposed to be about 16 to 20 inches apart, but these ones are 48 inches apart for some reason. It's really weird. And so the only way that we are able to work up here is using 2x4s and putting them all the way over and then just crawling over and fearing that the 2x4s don't slip and we don't go crashing through the ceiling. But now that we have this plywood here, we can actually crawl up here like I will do now. Another thing I added was cardboard so that you don't crush your head on a nail that's up there. So they don't cover up the entire space, so they're still well ventilated, but they still protect your head. All right, let me crawl up here. There's not much crawling space, but let me show you what else we got up in here. So right here, I'm directly above the garage opener. So we added these 2x4s, which is what the garage opener will mount to. We had a bunch of leftover insulation, so I left it all over there. Over here, we have an additional outlet. And if you can guess what this outlet goes to, so it goes under the insulation and out that way into sort of the peak of the attic. And that's actually where we put a security camera on the outside of the garage. All right, so let me get back. All right, so let me get back down from the attic with one less hand than normal. Oh, let's hope I don't fall. Ooh. Ooh, I made it. All right, let's not forget to turn off the light. All right, meet you guys back downstairs. I'm feeling really confident about this place. This place is so bright now that my camera is having a hard time figuring out the exposure that it needs to set for this. Man, this attic ladder is a little complicated to put backstage. Yeah, so I want to say that's all that we've done to the place, but I think that there's a lot more that we're missing. But I'm just forgetting all the things that we've done in here. Next steps are, we noticed that it rained on Saturday, and even though there wasn't any clear leaking in the floor or from the ceiling, the ground was actually getting wet. And so we think that the ground wasn't properly sealed. And so I think when it gets a little warmer, we will also reseal the ground or reseal the concrete or seal it for the first time with some sort of epoxy. And I think that'll look super, super nice. Give it a really professional feel. But so, yeah, how do you guys like the garage so far? This has been the biggest project I've ever done. It's been like 5 weeks so far. If you want to see more projects like this, make sure to subscribe, like this video, leave any comments, and hopefully I start building my garage gym very soon. Thanks for watching this, and sorry I've been missing. This stuff takes a ridiculous amount of time. But yeah, this has been John Heng, and I'm out.